Speaking of literacy, see what I did there? Anywhoozle! Howdy, hello, how you doing? My name is Curtis. I like to talk a lot, and I'm wearing pajamas today, but we're not talking about that. Today we're talking about words. Words. Divide a whole into thirds. Thirds. I'm a gay sea otter. I blow other dudes out the water. Cringe! Y'all know that Bo Burnham song? Y'all know that Bo Burnham song, right? Words. I didn't just humiliate myself, okay? I didn't. It's a reference. Today we are talking about literacy. We are talking about words. The importance of words and the power they have. The power that comes from the ability to read and write. We are talking about literacy in the modern age as well, and how that goes along with recognizing propaganda. And we are also talking about censorship and self-censorship, and how we are in a panopticon. Stay tuned. I like to keep a list of words and quotes in my notes app. Words and quotes that really stand out to me and grasp my attention. The first word on that list is a word, raconteur. It's a French word meaning a master storyteller. I'd like to be called that one day, you know. I want it on my gravestone. Bard of ballads, sage of stories, a raconteur like no other. And humble too. Words are the most powerful tool that we have as people. Words hold so much power. Think about it. Any single word can strike 1,000,001 emotions into somebody in an instant. Words can be heavy or light, joyous or saddening. They have the power to heal, to harm, to lift up or break down. Words can either kill or give life, as poison or fruit. The way you use them decides what they are, decides the power that they have. This is why we have to be sure of what we are saying and our intentions behind what we are saying when we are saying it. We have to think before we speak. Words are a reflection of intention. The ability to speak and to communicate with others is a blessing in and of itself. Having the privilege to share your thoughts with others and hear theirs is a wonderful thing. We all know that I love to hear myself talk. Anyways, like I was saying, you have to know what you're saying at all times. When you are inevitably at the Thanksgiving table with racist uncle and he starts going on and on, you have to be able to stand on business. However, you can't let them get the best of you. Don't raise your voice. Instead, raise the power of your words. Don't sugarcoat things and tell it like it really is, but with some decorum. Remember that one slip of the tongue can change the direction of your life forever. Are you aware of the say goodbye to college internet phenomenon? Essentially, choose your words, your tone, and your actions very, very wisely. Use those literacy skills. Speaking of literacy, see what I did there? Anywhoozle! Literacy is one of, if not the most important skills anyone can have in our modern age. It is quite literally the gateway to achievement. Literacy expands capabilities and opportunities. Reading and writing nurtures our minds in ways that I really don't even understand. I'm just going to be so for real with you. Literacy not only supports the development of fluid intelligence, common sense, basically, but also the development of general cognitive skill. Reading books as children forms us into who we are as adults, honestly. Stories form our moral compasses and our core personality. One of the best and most effective ways to express yourself is through writing. I think I've probably talked about this before. It nurtures our self-understanding and our ability to understand and empathize with others. With the foundational skills of reading and writing, children soar through life. Knowing how to read and write, think critically and analytically, and communicate effectively are genuinely some of the most important skills, and they are far more than just necessary, I guess. But, of course, there is a literacy crisis in the United States right now. Every year, more and more children are being left behind. When I was in the 3rd grade,
I thought that I was gay.
The state of Mississippi instated the 3rd grade GATE test, which was a standardized test meant to catch the kids who couldn't read well enough to move on to the next grade level. I remember about 4 or 5-ish kids in my grade alone being held back. There were about 40 of us, mind you. That was it. The NAEP, the National Assessment of Education Progress, stated in 2023 that 43% of 4th graders in the United States scored at or above grade level in reading. 47% of kids not being proficient in reading. Is my math right there? Hold on. No. 57% of 4th graders were not proficient in reading, proficient enough to move ahead to the next grade. 43% of kids were proficient in reading. That's less than half. And unfortunately, but of course, the numbers are far worse for marginalized students. The NAEP also states that by 4th grade, only 17% of black students, 21% of Latino students, 11% of students with disabilities, and 10% of multilingual students can read proficiently. This is deeply concerning and completely preventable. You see, there are 5 components that are essential to reading. First, there's phonemic awareness, which is the ability to recognize, manipulate, and consider the individual's sounds, syllables, rhymes, and roots in spoken words. Next is phonics, which is being able to correlate sounds with letters and groups of letters. For example, if I were to look at the letters C-H-A, I would not pronounce it kaha, I would pronounce it cha, because the C and H blend makes a ch sound. Without teaching phonics, children cannot make those connections between the sound of ch and reading it where it looks like it should be kh. This is because we have lost phonics somewhere in the plot, and now we're just teaching sight reading, which is simply the memorization of words. Next, we have something called fluency, and this is the ability to read at a consistent and conversational pace. We've all been in class with that kid, and we're doing popcorn reading, and the guy calls on the kid who doesn't have good fluency, and the kid's like, but soft, the yonder window breaks? It says East and Juliet is the sun, dog. But we get those kids now because we don't really teach fluency in schools. I remember all through elementary school, about once a month we would have these reading tests where you would get called to the teacher's desk and they would hand you a paragraph and they would time you to see how fast you could read it and how well you could read it. And everybody hated me because I was really good at it. What can I say? I'm that guy. And not in a good way. Just like I just read like for a living when I was a kid. I do distinctly remember, and I actually still have this. I still have this gift. A good family friend of ours named Mr. Bob. Shout out Mr. Bob, bro. He was basically like another grandpa growing up. And one of my birthdays, he gave me a dictionary, like a Webster's dictionary. And I read it. I read the whole thing, cover to cover, for absolutely no reason. Because I didn't have friends. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not here to trauma dump today. But we listen and we don't judge. Next is vocabulary. Expand your lexicon, dog. No more words. Words. Divide a whole into thirds.
Like Hamlet, all about words. Divide a whole into thirds.
Finally, we have comprehension, which is the ability to understand and process written text and integrate it with existing knowledge. Research shows that when students receive systematic and explicit instruction in all 5 of these domains, they will learn to read. Of course, it's not that easy. How do you get a kid to read, really? In our current age of iPads and PS5s, who wants to sit down and read Shakespeare, really? Self-jab. Well, you get them to read something that they're interested in. What kids read matters a lot more than we think. When students read books with diverse characters and cultures and storylines, rich with perspective and experiences like their own, they'll want to read it. They'll relate to it and they'll want to read it because they see themselves within that story. They read more and they become engaged readers, expanding their horizons and increasing their levels of literacy. But restricted teaching of critical race theory, banning books, and censorship of writers have all led to lower levels of literacy in the United States. Censorship is the suppression of speech, public communication, or other information, namely by the government. They'll ban anything. They'll ban books, movies, news, anything that is considered to be obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security. Anything good. What happened to free speech, am I right? Thousands of books are banned in the United States, actually. To name a few, we have Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451. That's ironic. We have Perks of Being a Wallflower. This book is gay. The Hate You Give. Looking for Alaska. I can't think of any more right now. I have them listed in my notes app as well. Books have stood in the crossfire of political debates and battles throughout history. Today, most banned books address issues of race, gender identity, sexuality, and mental health. Banning books completely diminishes the quality of anyone and everyone's education. They restrict the exposure to important topics and perspectives that students need and that students may not be able to be exposed to otherwise. I can attest to that. I would not have been exposed to so many different perspectives that have shaped me into the blue-haired liberal.
Unlike you blue-haired liberals, I don't have pronouns.
That I am today. Reading books encourages empathy and understanding in children. It helps people develop informed opinions and be able to communicate and express those opinions in an eloquent way. Yet, here is the American government. Banning books, burning books, defunding the public libraries, defunding the public schools, values before truth. In our modern age, literacy goes so much further than just reading and writing, though. I mean, literacy has so many different components that evolve with us as we grow up. For example, there's civic literacy, emotional literacy, and media literacy. Civic literacy is having the knowledge and understanding of one's own rights and how government and political systems work, as well as having the ability to engage in informed and responsible civic action. Civil disobedience. Civic literacy also involves being aware of using your rights and knowledge to take action. Take down the government when necessary. By any means necessary. You know, being a good citizen. Emotional literacy, also known as emotional intelligence, is fairly self-explanatory. It's just understanding your emotions. But there are 5 parts to emotional literacy. There's knowing your feelings, managing and regulating your emotions, repairing emotional problems and traumas, having empathy towards yourself and others, and emotional interactivity. Knowing your feelings is being able to identify and acknowledge your emotions if and when they come. And management and regulation of emotions is knowing how to deal and cope with said emotions. Working through and repairing emotional problems and trauma is a lot easier said than done, and a lot of work goes into that, of course. And I'm definitely not saying that if you have issues with your trauma, you're not emotionally intelligent, you don't have emotional illiteracy, because that's not the case. You can be extremely emotionally literate and still battle with negative feelings. The part that makes it not so is if you are not actively trying to be emotionally literate and intelligent. I do encourage that if you are struggling with any of these last 3 things, please reach out to a trusted family member or a friend or a professional. It helps to talk. It really does. I can attest. Not going to preach at you, though. I'm preaching at myself. Emotional interactivity is basically all 3 of these things put together. And then, of course, we have empathy. And empathy, I think, is by far the most important word that comes out of this list.
Swap eyes so we can
Empathize.
We're in an empathy shortage. I'm sure you've heard. Empathy is listening to others and feeling for them. Just making an attempt at understanding someone else and their issues. Trying to connect with another person. In the age of the internet, you would think that being able to talk to and connect with and hear out someone on the other side of the world at the click of a button would encourage empathy in us. You'd be completely wrong. But it actually has, I fear, decreased levels of empathy in people. People tend to forget that there's another person on that other side of the screen with their own feelings and emotions and backstory and lore. They're not NPCs in your video game. You can't just shoot them. From cry about it, to suck it up, to it's all that deep, bro, to Sibao. S-Y-B-A-U. Sibao. The things people will say to you in the Instagram comment section is absolutely insane, okay? Empathy is what the world needs right now. We all need to take a step back and remember that regardless of everything going on, regardless of our differences, whatever side you're on, we have one common goal and one thing in common. Living. We all just want to live, dog. So live and let live, alright? Extend a hand. Try empathy. Emotional literacy is the key to the formation of successful relationships, enhanced problem-solving abilities, and improving one's own quality of life, and mental health, and physical health. It's all connected, of course. Media literacy is exactly what it sounds like. It is seeking out and comprehending information, and also being able to question and analyze what you are consuming. Being a mindful consumer. This means not just doom scrolling away and accepting everything presented to you as factual information. When you see news being presented to you, it is very important to practice something called lateral reading. Lateral reading is when you look at many perspectives from multiple sources when assessing the quality of a particular piece of media. It involves critical analysis skills, of course, but really a simple Google search will do you a lot of good. Especially when you see a post on social media that is news. You have to consider a lot of things. Who posted it? Why did they post it? Is it a sponsored post? Is it AI generated, unfortunately? And is it propaganda? Recognizing propaganda can be tricky at first, of course, but once you know the signs and really start being mindful of what you're consuming, you'll find that everything is propaganda. They're feeding us lies. There is no truth, and there is no hope either. Anyhoozle. Propaganda is the systemic distribution of biased and or misleading information in order to influence public opinion. It involves spreading disinformation, which is false information, of course, deliberately and covertly spread to influence the public or obscure the truth. It also involves spreading malinformation, which is information that is often reality-based, but very much taken out of context in order to inflict harm on a person, organization, or even a country. Some things to look out for are bandwagoning, creative scapegoats, fear-mongering, and glittering generalities. The bandwagon method of propaganda capitalizes on our human FOMO. Basically, when you say a lot of people are doing something, people are going to want to do it because they don't want to miss out, so it creates a feeling of community. Think cult. Creating scapegoats is when one makes out a person or group of people to be the enemy. People are often unjustly blamed, demonized, and subsequently victimized for doing nothing by a outraged community. This is especially true when it comes to marginalized groups and minorities. Think protests. Fear-mongering is using big, scary hypotheticals to instill fear in the public, because fear clouds all judgment, and when we are afraid, we'll do anything to stay alive, even if that means doing what the government says, unfortunately. Lastly, glittering generalities are vague words and phrases with no actual substance, like a stereotype. We're all victims of propaganda, okay? Doesn't matter what you're conforming or subscribing to, they're lying to you. They're shoving misinformation down our throats, okay? Keeping the people ignorant and uninformed is the best way to maintain control. Apart from my anti-establishment wiles, though, what I'm saying is that reading and literacy goes into it all. It shapes us and our opinions, and when it comes to sharing those opinions, we have to be well informed. But sometimes being well informed isn't enough, I fear. Often it matters how you say something. What you say matters, of course, but how you say it determines how it is going to be received by the audience or listener. We have to know time, place, and audience. And by no means am I saying to censor yourself. You just have to be mindful of words and tone. Please don't censor yourself. I beg of thee. Self-censorship is exactly what it sounds like. Also, preventing yourself from saying something out of fear or pressure. I find this happens a lot on social media. People get afraid to say something because they're afraid the community guidelines are going to give them a strike or get their posts taken down or even get their account banned. But really think about it. We're censoring ourselves for fear of being censored, thus eliminating the censorer, the need for the censorer. Do you get what I'm saying? Hear me out, okay? Think about Michael Foucault's panopticon. This essentially states that people can be controlled when they believe themselves to be under constant surveillance, even if no one is actually watching. A panopticon is a circular prison with a single guard tower in the middle, and every single cell has basically like a glass wall or a wall of bars that can be completely seen through by the guard in the middle. But since there's only one guard, and the guard can only be really looking at one cell at a time, of course they're not under constant surveillance, but they have the ability to be under constant surveillance. The prisoners discipline themselves simply because someone might be watching, might do something, thus eliminating the need for actual physical extreme measures. All actions are controlled by the authority that is watching. Therefore, actions are not determined by the strength of the authority, but rather the fear that the authority instills in a person. We are afraid of someone not liking what we say so much that they say we can't say it. So we don't say it at all. We keep some of the most profound and important thoughts to ourselves because we're afraid of what might happen when we say them. But that's if something happens. This extends beyond social media at this point. Economic and political state of the world.
Can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now?
Writers everywhere are censoring themselves, especially journalists, for fear of backlash. Me personally, I always stand on business. I don't censor myself. If someone doesn't like what I have to say, they don't have to listen. But if they try to come for me and my opinions, I'm going to defend myself and what I believe in. Always. I don't hold back, I don't sugarcoat things, because what I'm saying is true. And of course I have sources to back it up. That's my favorite thing to do, by the way. My favorite thing to do when somebody's arguing with me about, like, anything, and they say something I know is not true, I go source, and I make them Google it, or I Google it, and then I go, who right? Look, you can steal that. I give you permission. Source! It's fun. It's fun watching people's face as they realize they're wrong. And they just argued with you for 30 minutes, and they were wrong. But they'll never accept it. They'll always be like, well, that's Google. And Google's not trustworthy. I use Bing. Girl queen. Don't play me. My point is I don't shut myself up. And I never will. Spending my childhood reading and writing whatever I could, whenever I could, led me to this point. And made me into the person I am today. Literacy is the most important skill anyone can have. I would not steer you wrong, friend. We need to further push it, not only in schools, but also in the home. Parents, take responsibility for your part in teaching your children. It's not just up to the teacher. The teacher only has them for 8 hours a day. Any time that is spent in Sleepytown Junction needs to be spent learning. Further educating yourself, because that is the most important thing we can do as people, is to further educate ourselves and better ourselves always. Use your literacy skills for the greater good. Teach the youngins, save the world. Hello, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk today. I got a few views on my last video. I think that's really cool. Thank you for listening to me talk. I really hope you enjoyed this. I really hope you learned something. Always be educated. Thank you and good night.